Hello, everyone. I've got something interesting to talk about here. The theme is freedom, and not surface level freedom, freedom on the deepest level, freedom in the deepest sense. And this came up because of something that happened this weekend. So I went for a walk in the woods, a long walk in the woods this weekend. And at some point during the walk, I asked for guidance to my higher self, God, whatever you want to call it. I was like, what is my unique energy signature? What's a way to describe what I embody and emanate? Like, at least what's a part of it? What's a tangible way of describing it? So that's the question that I posed. And then maybe 15 minutes later, through walking, the answer came to me clear as day. And the answer was freedom. And I really had the feeling that it was freedom in a really deep way. And freedom, in a way that a lot of people don't express and that you don't really see expressed in many places. And this came with some interesting signs. So after I got that answer, that freedom is that energy signature, I realized that when I first started the walk, like a half hour before that, I was singing the lyrics of this song called Free Spirit. That was the name of the song, and I was singing that. And check it out, by the way. It's called Free Spirit by Spiritual Tony. Great rap song. So I realized I was singing that beforehand. And then that answer came to me. So that was an interesting synchronicity. And then on top of that, I realized I looked down at my shirt and I was wearing a shirt that said freedom. I have this green shirt that says freedom with the Om symbol on it. So I realized I was wearing a shirt that said freedom. All right. So that was two immediate synchronicities that were big signs of this being true. It confirmed it. So that's why I'm talking about this notion of freedom, deep freedom on a spiritual level, on every level, on a holistic level, is so important. And this is such an important conversation because most of the conversations we have around freedom are related to like money or political stuff or things like that. It's not on the deepest level. It's not the core. It's not the essence of freedom. So that's what I want to talk about, the essence of freedom. So I came up with a definition of freedom recently, and it is the bliss of unhindered beingness and self-expression. So it's really that state of pure beingness and pure self-expression. That's a good definition of freedom from my perspective. And freedom also has to do with a lot of other things like self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is freedom. Self-love is freedom. Freedom and love have have so much in common, especially at the highest level, because we think about unconditional love as the purest or highest form of love. And freedom is unconditional because the more conditions you have, the less free, So like, unconditional love and pure freedom are just about the same thing at their essence. That's really interesting. And then also self-expression is freedom. That unhindered self-expression from the soul. That's freedom. And it's also important to talk about what freedom isn't. Freedom isn't just like this ego notion of doing whatever you want. This like short-term gratification of the ego doing what it wants. That's not freedom. And people who experience that lifestyle, like let's say a rich and famous celebrity gets to do whatever they want, they get tired of that pretty quickly and it gets old and it becomes its own form of imprisonment because it's not freedom on the deepest level. It's freedom in this very small, constrained, egoic sense, which isn't true freedom. And you also see this with like comedians. This is what I call the caricature trap. When your freedom looks like, let's say, someone who entertains other people. You're so gregarious and funny and making people laugh, but when you feel like you have to do that 24/7, it's actually a form of imprisonment. When it becomes this caricature that you have to play 24/7, it's like a mode that you're stuck in. And that's why a lot of comedians go through like depression and things like that, because they feel stuck in that caricature trap. Even though if you look at them on the surface or see them for a little bit, it seems like they're very free, but they're really just stuck in that trap of, I need to be in this mode, this self-expressive mode 24/7. So true freedom is really allowing your soul, the wisdom of your soul, the love of your soul to express how it needs to or how it's calling to do moment to moment. Like sometimes you might want to sing or dance in public. Allow yourself to do that. That's freedom. But sometimes you might just want to be low key and reserved, and that's freedom as well. If you're stuck in one mode or another mode, that's not freedom. So it comes from that deep, spontaneous, creative expression from the soul. So that's how I've been coming to view freedom in the deepest sense. And I also wanted to talk about some practical levers you can pull to create this deeper freedom, this holistic freedom. One is presence or mindfulness. When you're present, when you're aware, especially aware of your thoughts, you're free because you realize that you don't have to play into certain programs or play out certain programs or scripts. That's freedom. So mindfulness, presence creates freedom. And this also leads to the second one, which is realizing the power of choice and being intentional. When you realize you have a choice, that's freedom. We think of like the word free will, the expression free will. That is your range of choice, your range of intentionality. And when you're present and mindful, that range of choice actually expands more and more, and that's freedom. Another one, this is number 3, is gratitude. Gratitude, it's like almost ironic and paradoxical how much freedom gratitude creates and how many doors it opens. When you get into a state of gratitude, you start attracting better things and more things. What you appreciate appreciates. So let's say if you're at your job and you don't quite like it so much. If you're all down about it and complaining, you don't draw anything positive. You shut down your creativity, you shut down yourself, and you don't relate to others in positive ways. No one wants to be around you. It creates this negative feedback loop. But if you get into a state of gratitude, like, wow, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have a job that pays me. That starts building. You feel better. You get more creative. You interact with people in new ways. So it opens opportunities. So gratitude actually creates freedom. Gratitude's magical in that way. It's really interesting how that works. And then another one is self-acceptance. When you simply accept yourself on a deep level, you're free. When you can really accept yourself, your quirks, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything about you, the more and the deeper you can accept yourself, the freer you are. That's a big one. Number 5 is letting go. The more you hold on to, the less free you are. This is why forgiveness is so important. If you're clinging on to how someone wronged you in the past, you're actually imprisoning yourself. If you're clinging to people acting a certain way or situations having to be a certain way, guess what? You're imprisoning yourself. The ability to let go expands your freedom. Another one, this one's more obvious, is creative expression. Creative expression it helps you unlock more freedom, and it's also an expression of freedom. And creativity can take on any form. It doesn't have to be like painting or writing poetry. It could be working on cars. It could be the way you walk. That could be a form of creative expression, really anything. Number 7 is acts of kindness. And we've all felt this. When you do something good or kind for someone else, you feel really good and you feel free. There's like a freedom that opens up when you're kind to people. And it's like especially potent when it's a spontaneous random act of kindness too. So that's another one. And the 8th and final one, or category of these levers to create this deep freedom, is any form of energy work, or what I call upshifting. So it's anything that elevates your energy. So things like dancing, qigong, yoga, walking outside, getting into a sauna, exercise, cold showers, things like that. All of that helps you feel free. And we can all think of situations where we've done something like this, like maybe you've gotten Reiki done and then you're blissed out and you feel free. You feel unburdened by things that used to burden you, you know? Or it could be like a cold shower. You took a cold shower and you feel so free and unhindered afterwards. So those are some examples that a lot of us have experienced. And now the last thing I want to share in relation to freedom, true freedom, is what that looks like. So I'll share a few examples from my life, and maybe this will spark more of it for you and how that might look like for you. So for me, writing, like writing from the soul, being a vessel for the wisdom of my soul through writing is a huge one for me. And sometimes it takes the form of fiction, sometimes it's poetry, sometimes it's nonfiction, whatever. But that's a big expression of freedom for me. And also speaking from the soul. This is one example. Exhibit A right here, what I'm doing now. Another one is long walks in nature. That's an expression of freedom. It feels freeing. It's also like a freedom, like I'm choosing to do this with my time that way. Also being like this full immersion in sensual connection with my wife. So any form of sensuality, sexuality, when you're fully in the moment, fully present and immersed, that's freedom. We can all attest to this if you've experienced those moments. Also dancing. Everyone knows that. Laughter. Don't repress your laughter. Don't repress your weirdness. You know, let your weirdness out. We all need to laugh more. And laughter is an expression of freedom. People underestimate laughter as like a spiritual practice. They think like anything related to spiritual growth or even personal development has to be all serious. No, fucking laugh more. Another one for me is deep, spontaneous conversations. When you have deep conversations with people and you don't really know where it's going and it becomes a journey in and of itself, that's an expression of freedom. Because it's almost like you're exploring new territory through the conversation. I love when that happens. Another one is holding space for someone. Because when you're free within yourself, you become this just like pure beingness where you can hold space for someone else. Just to be with them. Like maybe they need someone to talk to. Maybe they need a shoulder to lean on. When you're free within yourself, you could become a pure space holder for someone else. So that's an expression of freedom. And some of these aren't like typical expressions of freedom. So that's why I'm bringing them up. It helps you see freedom from new angles. One more is with social interactions. So it's not forcing social interactions, but also not avoiding social interactions. That's freedom. The freedom to engage in social interactions how you feel called to engage with them on a soul level. Like I've been in both situations. I've been in situations where I've forced social interactions. Like I haven't talked to people in a while. Like I'm just going to start walking up to people. Like and forcing it in that way. Although there are times when you actually feel that calling and you do it because you feel called to do it. And then there's also like the other extreme of avoiding it. Like, oh, I'm nervous, so I'm going to avoid it. No. Like have the freedom to express how your soul is urging you to express in the moment. So I'm bringing this up because a lot of these actually lead to the physical freedom that we see too. The physical freedom in terms of like the money, the opportunities, the freedom of time, even location, where you can go, that kind of stuff. When you work on these levers and create freedom, true freedom from the inside out, the physical manifestations of these come as a natural consequence. Like you're going to attract opportunities because you're basically attuning with higher wisdom and aligning with your greatest purpose in life. And when you do that, you're magnetic. When you do that, you get things come to you. Like opportunities come to you, opportunities open for you. So it really creates that kind of life. But it's from the inside out. It's not like you need money or this freedom or this object to feel free. It's I feel free, and this comes into my life as a consequence of my inner freedom. That is true freedom. When you embody it and you're flowing that freedom from the inside out, and the physical stuff, it just comes and goes, and you acknowledge that. You're not attached to it. If you're attached to it, it's not freedom. If you think you need it or you cling to it, that's not freedom. You're constraining yourself. So yeah, we could go deep with this, but that's what I wanted to share for this. Because like I said, not many people talk about freedom in the deepest sense. The deepest sense. So apply these practical levers that I shared. And also, I invite you to think about freedom in new ways and see freedom from different angles. So you can experience it more from the inside out, and then you'll see the byproducts of it in your physical reality. All right, so feel free to drop in the comments a takeaway that you got from this. All right, and implement it, embody it. And I'll be going live every week, so I'll see you next week. All right, peace, and much love, everyone. Take care.